Chapter 17. Telephone Tip. Nancy immediately telephoned the police department. No accidents had been reported within the past hour, and no one of Richard Ellington's description had been reported in trouble. I guess we worried unnecessarily, Nancy thought in relief. But it's strange that he should be delayed so long. As she opened the door of the booth, Nancy was surprised to find that Catherine had gone. Instantly she knew why. Michael was walking in Nancy's direction. She would have passed him with only a cold nod if he had not blocked her path. "Miss Drew, may I say something to you?" he asked in a wheedling tone. Nancy was surprised at the young man's change of attitude toward her. What did his sudden friendly overture mean? "I want to apologize for the way I've acted," he went on. "I said some things I didn't mean." "I'll accept your apology," Nancy replied. "We ought to be good friends. Grandmother wants it that way." "Yes, I guess she does," Nancy said. After a pause, she added, "Suppose I come to the house tomorrow to tea. Will you be there?" "Tomorrow? No. Yes. I had some business to attend to, but I'll put it off." Nancy felt sure the man had some ulterior motive for being so polite and friendly. "Grandmother thinks I'm tops now," Michael went on. "She'll keep on thinking that if Anna will just mind her own business. The old busybody keeps telling Grandmother not to give me money. I have to baby Anna along all the time. Why don't you put in a good word for me?" Nancy smiled, realizing now why the man had adopted such a cordial attitude. "So you think I have influence with Anna?" she asked. "Sure. Whatever you say goes with her. How about it?" "We'll see," Nancy replied. "Be sure to be at home tomorrow afternoon. By the way, who is the man with you?" Michael showed surprise at the question, but answered, "I don't know. I picked him up a little way from here." Before Michael could query Nancy about her interest in the stranger, she moved on to rejoin her friends. Catherine Kovna and everyone else was relieved to hear that Mr. Ellington had not been in an accident. The young dress designer's evening, however, was spoiled. The others were very kind to her, and the boys saw to it that she danced a great deal. While Nancy and Ned were dancing together, he asked what she thought of Richard Ellington not making an appearance. "I'm really worried that something has happened to him," she replied. "He's too much of a gentleman not to have sent word." "Well, if he wasn't in an accident, what else would have delayed him?" Ned persisted. "Lots of things. Thieves could have waylaid him, knocked him out, and stolen his car." "Then let's get out of here and go look for him," Ned suggested. He was glad of an excuse to walk in the moonlight with Nancy. As they followed the road that wound in and out along the river, Ned felt only the romance of the evening. But Nancy's thoughts kept reverting to the mystery. It was an eerie night. Now and then clouds would obscure the moon, causing grotesque shadows to flicker across their path. "Ned, what was that?" Nancy stopped short, gripping his arm. "I saw a figure hiding behind that giant pine tree," she whispered. "We're being followed." "Why should anyone follow us? Come on," he urged. "You want to find Ellington, don't you?" Somewhat dubiously, Nancy allowed herself to be led on down the road. She kept her gaze fastened on the line of trees. Suddenly, the moving shadow appeared again. "Ned, I'm sure we're being spied upon." The boy started toward the trees, but Nancy pulled him back. "We're in danger," she cautioned. "I can't explain more now, but we must go right back." Quickly she turned and began to run, Ned at her heels. Not until she was within the rays of light from the inn did she slow down to a walk. "Now tell me, What's going on? Ned panted. Something of tremendous importance is at stake. I don't trust Michael, and I feel his being here tonight is to establish an alibi. I have a plan that I was going to carry out tomorrow, but I think I should do so tonight. The one you wanted me to help you with? Yes. Get Jim and wait here for me. I'll locate our victim, she replied tensely. Scarcely had Ned vanished into the inn when Nancy saw a tall man coming hurriedly along the road. He was Michael's companion. Quickly, she ducked behind a bush. He must be the one who followed Ned and me, she thought. The man passed close to where she crouched. Without noticing her, he entered the inn. I'll trail him, Nancy determined. As she entered the hallway of the inn, she saw him go into the dining room. Nancy was about to follow when from a half-closed telephone booth, she recognized a familiar voice. Everything's going as planned, Michael said in a mocking tone. Yes, I'm with Nancy Drew now. How's my dear grandma? Ha ha! Nancy moved closer, but she heard no more. Michael lowered his voice, and a moment later came from the booth. Now, what was the significance of that conversation? The bewildered girl asked herself. Michael couldn't have been talking to Anna. He's up to something. With no suspicion that he was being observed, Michael started to return to the dining room. Quickly, Nancy walked up to him. Wouldn't you like to join some of us in the garden? She asked sweetly. The young man looked surprised, but accepted the invitation. Nancy suggested he wait for her by a little pool. He went outside just as Ned returned with Helen and Jim. How would you like to expose an imposter? Nancy whispered. What? Said the three in unison. Anything you say, Jim agreed. I'm convinced that the man known as Michael Alexandra is not a prince, Nancy whispered tensely. What do you want us to do? Asked Jim. How are you at kidnapping? Expert. Ned grinned. It must be a neat, noiseless job. We'll all walk down to the pool where Michael is waiting. When I give the signal, overpower him and I'll tell you what to do. Leave it to us, Ned replied. The young people wandered into the garden. They paused at the pool, forming a circle about the unsuspecting Michael. Then, at a signal from Nancy, Jim and Ned closed in from the rear. Before the captive could make a sound, they had covered his mouth. Lifting him bodily, they carried him behind some bushes and put him down. No one would be apt to notice them in that spot, but there was enough light from a nearby lamp for them to see. Nancy spoke up quickly. If you don't yell for help, we'll allow you to talk, she told him. Ned removed his hand from the young man's mouth. What's the idea? Michael demanded. You can't treat me like this. I'm a prince. How can you prove it? Nancy demanded. With the letter and photograph. You took them to grandmother yourself. I gave her certain proofs, yes. But how do I know where you obtained them? They may have belonged to another person. That's a lie, Michael mumbled, struggling hard to break away from Ned and Jim. Nancy resumed coolly. I know that you have been robbing Mrs. Alexandra. You can't prove a thing. You're bluffing. Grandmother is satisfied that I am the lost prince. If you're the missing Michael, you can prove your identity right now, Nancy retorted. I don't know what you're talking about, he protested savagely. You will in a moment. Nancy smiled as she turned to Ned and Jim. Boys, she said, please remove this man's shoes and socks. What's the big idea? Michael protested furiously. You can't take off my shoes. Oh, can't we? Mocked Jim. Just watch us. While their captives struggled and fought, he and Ned stripped off the shoes and socks. I wish we had a flashlight, Nancy commented. Here's one in the prince's pocket, Ned said sarcastically. He handed it to her. To the surprise of the young people, Nancy flashed the light directly on the soles of Michael's bare feet. "Just as I thought," she exclaimed. "You are not Mrs. Alexandra's long-lost grandson. You are an imposter." "That's not true," the young man whined. "Why are you looking at my feet?" "If you really were Michael Alexandra, you would know the answer without asking." "You're just trying to cheat me out of my inheritance." Nancy was stern as she faced the captive. "You will never obtain another penny from Mrs. Alexandra. Your little game has ended." Michael stared sullenly at the group. "Okay, I'll admit I'm not Michael Alexandra." "Where did you obtain your so-called credentials?" Nancy asked sharply. "I mean the letter and picture and toy." "Found 'em on a train seat coming into River Heights." "Then the real Prince Michael may be somewhere near here," Nancy exclaimed. She asked the imposter, "Where is he?" End of chapter 17.